Hey, WedPro listeners, welcome back to another episode of the WedPro podcast, your go-to show for all things wedding business. Now, I know you are used to getting a brand new episode from us each and every week, but we've been a little busy behind the scenes working on something mega exciting for you. So for this week, we're bringing you something a bit different, but just as valuable. We've put together a compilation of some of our favourite episodes you, our amazing listeners, have absolutely loved. Whether you are a new listener or a long-time listener, these episodes are packed with tips, tricks and insights that you can implement right away and help take your business to the next level. But before we dive in, I've got something super special for you. We've created a list of the best ways to significantly boost your income in your wedding business. This list is packed with actionable ideas that you can start implementing right away to attract more clients and stand out online. We've only got a limited amount of copies to hand, so if you want to get in on that action, click the link in the show notes now. All right, without further ado, let's jump into this special compilation of our listeners' favourite episodes. I know you are going to love it. Welcome to the WedPro podcast, the podcast for WedPros no matter their stage. We are your hosts, Katie and Roxy, and this is the WedPro podcast.
Yeah, we wanted to kind of pick your brains today and go through kind of your business, your branding knowledge, and kind of share some kind of hints and tips for wedding business owners out there regarding branding, because it is something that we see people
have a struggle with.
And not always know that they have a struggle with it.
Yeah, that's it. I think
I think not a lot of people kind of respect branding until they get to a certain stage in business, and then they realise what it can do for you. So it's something since I left my career as a designer, that I've kind of tried to push people to consider it more early on, because it's a good jump start into business if you get it right first time.
100%. And I think
it is. I think when people start any kind of business, maybe it's not in the front of their mind, to concentrate on the branding, but like you say, it's absolutely vital.
Yeah. Well, I think people think that they are thinking about branding by, maybe thinking, right, I'm going to start a business, and maybe people in the wedding industry in particular, some people will definitely resonate with this, that they might kind of fall into becoming a wedding professional or fall into becoming a wedding supplier, and it's not something that they thought necessarily that they were going to do as a career. And they think the branding goes as far as a business name and a logo and some colours, and that's, as you say, they get to a level in their business where they kind of think, right, okay, this needs to be more strategic than that, and more, more thought out and consistent across the board. So I mean, we know you, but for those people who are listening who don't know you, it would be really great for people to kind of hear about your background. And you mentioned that you had a career as a designer, and then how you got into the wedding industry as well. So
I currently run the Handmade Sign Company, so wedding professionals might know me in the area. So I do the wedding signage, I do calligraphy and wedding signage. I was the East Midlands regional winner at the Wedding Industry Awards, and recently national highly commended as well. So I only started that business January 2019.
Amazing.
So it's been a really good first year. But prior to that, I was 14 years in graphic design. And so when I left, I was the creative director of a brand agency here in Leicester. And that's been my entire career. And then I just decided, no, I've had enough. I'm going to stop and I'm going to do this wedding signage. So that was a bit of a change. But no, branding is still a big part of my life. And I do think the success I've had in my first year of business has been helped greatly by my branding.
I mean, and we speak to a lot of wedding professionals, obviously, in what we do, and we come across a lot of businesses, mainly on social media, don't we? When we might, obviously, with what we do and our network on social media, that we do come across, and those people with strong branding. And I think actually when Roxy came across you for the first time,
that's the first thing I noticed. I was like, oh my life, her branding is just on fleek.
Yeah, so like you say, that you kind of came with that bit of background, didn't you? As in, right, let's get this right first time rather than a point.
Well, for me, a lot of people, when they go self-employed, will do it in a transitional stage. I didn't. I just quit one day and then was like, right, well, I've now got to pay the bills. We can't afford just to run on my husband's salary. I've got to bring money in each month, so I've got to make it work. And so in my second month of business, I was at the NEC National Wedding Show, and I, launched my branding like full on. I just knew it had to be right. So, and it's worked. It's been really successful for my first year, and I haven't had to do anything to support myself. So, yeah, I do think branding is a big key part of that, really.
No, and that's great. And then, I come out, like you say, that transition into wedding supplier, that's kind of where my background is. And obviously on our first podcast, we spoke about the background and how we started the bridal shop. Yeah. And that's exactly like, when you look at that being an afterthought, people normally look at, right, what is it that I want to do? And then they think about the branding kind of afterwards, where it's interesting that you kind of, from the get-go in your mind, like, let's get this key and get this right. And like you say, that you attribute quite a lot of your success to that. I mean, it probably took me a little while. Like you said previously, people get to a stage in their business where they start to consider brand as something that is just more than their logo, or just more than the colours or the fonts that they use, or maybe the aesthetics on their website, and more of a feeling. And for us, we had a physical premises and a shop, and I think quite a lot of the branding and the feeling of our business, I would talk a lot to the staff about, and we would talk about it, that everything kind of had to flow and fit into
fit into that jigsaw for it to kind of work as a whole.
Even the vibes in the shop, the language we were using in the shop, the way that we decorated the shop, everything had to fit, was a puzzle that fit into what our overall kind of brand, and also the audience that we were kind of going after. I mean, for us, we started this business, and our kind of USP was that we wanted to provide affordable bridal wear in the East Midlands. And way back when we kind of started it 10 years ago, there wasn't really anybody really doing that. And for me, as that kind of like progressed further down into the business, it was making sure that everything, the shop window, everything kind of fit into that brand of not just affordable bridal wear, but that was a big key part of it, wasn't it? Fitting into that kind of brand. So like, where do you find that most businesses kind of start with their branding?
I think you were right to touch on that. People kind of go into it a bit backwards with branding. Like, so like as a designer, when people used to come up to me, they'd be like, well, I need a new logo. And you'd be like, well, why do you need a new logo? Well, I just don't like the look of it. Well, no, that's not the way to look at it. Because I think a lot of people, when they start creating their brand, they think about what they like and don't really think about
your customer, their client.
It's not about you. This is about your customers. And people don't even think, oh, well, I've got this product, I'm going to call myself this, and this is going to be my logo. I've designed it on whatever program that they might have on their computer, and think that's it. But actually, they've designed that to just look maybe aesthetically pleasing to them, and not identified, well, who is my target customer? What are they looking for? How am I going to help them? What problem am I going to solve for them in their life? And if you don't do that, then your logo is not really going to speak to the people you need it to speak to. And then you kind of find things like you're getting approached by the wrong type of people. You might, for me, for what I do, my items are more expensive. You can grab a cheap sign from the range, for example. They're not my target customer. And my avatar of customer is more of a luxury high-end wedding, and they respect the work that goes into the handmade items, because everything I do is handmade, made to order, and pressed. And so there's no point me making my brand look cheap to appeal to the people that might be picking up wedding signage from the range and B&M and things like that, because then they're only going to get disappointed when they then ask for a price and go, well, I'm not going to pay that. And I'm going to get disappointed that I think that I then can't sell what I need to sell to make any money off it, actually make it a viable business.
And that's a good point that you kind of touched on there, Jenny, that some people might be feeling that in their business, you know, kind of, it is disheartening, isn't it, to be kind of being approached by the wrong type of client, both ends of the spectrum, and getting that branding. And like you say, you attribute branding as a key kind of factor into that making sure that you are targeting those right people, so that you don't have to, as a business owner, be having those kinds of conversations with people.
Yeah, exactly. And people just don't actually consider, you know, we've probably all heard the phrase that it's not, you know, brand isn't just a logo. I think it's been coined a lot nowadays, but it's totally true. It's not. You've got to think about the whole bigger picture. It's how people perceive you. I mean, for me, I did a lot of wedding fairs last year, and I was constantly approached. Oh, I already know you. And do you know what? Even though they might have seen someone else doing wedding signage on Pinterest, they immediately felt like it was mine, because my brand, for whatever reason, I assume because of how strong my branding was that they felt that they knew me, and any wedding signage they ever see is going to be me because I'm at the forefront of their mind, which is great, because now it's like other people online are essentially advertising for me. And go, oh, it's mine. Yeah, that wasn't mine. And it's just the power of branding. It can do so much for you. And yeah, people just need to give it a bit more credit where it's due. And if you are struggling to attract the right type of customers and charge what you want to charge, then the first thing I always suggest to people is look at your brand, because it's probably that it's just not working the way it should. I've always been, even at the brand agency I worked for, when I rebranded them, we were constantly told that we looked like a luxury kind of high-end brand. And actually we weren't. We were at the bottom of the market budget-wise for branding. But it was just the impression you give across. And that's just how great branding can be, that it can do that for you. So yes, it's a good thing.
I wanted to give people with an amazing experience, no matter, you know, your budget of your wedding dress. And, you know, people spending kind of £300 to £500 on a wedding dress. It wasn't like a 30 quid, 40 quid wedding dress. And that word affordable was making people feel like the experience that they were going to get was something like a flea market. Or
I think that word affordable and then the experience we gave was very disjointed.
And it actually took a lot for me to drop that, because I was so convinced at the beginning.
Yeah. You know, like even when we post on social media or wherever or whatever we spoke about, that word was just naturally like
would come out a lot. So, and it took me a while to kind of listen to people and think, right, okay, actually this isn't right for our brand anymore. And you know, as you get more experience in business and more experience in and more comfortable in your kind of market and where you're sitting, that audit is really important to do.
I think those little tiny tweaks will make such a massive difference as well, won't they?
Yeah, and so all the information you kind of get from the audit, so for example, the word affordable, that would come up in the audit going, well, hold on, is that attracting the right type of customer that we want? Is it portraying the right image? You can then put into a strategy, and it helps you address those issues. So a strategy is like, it's almost like your rule book of how your brand will speak moving forward. And part of that is addressing those key values that you want to put across. So yes, you're affordable, but actually, is that more important than the high level of experience that you want to put across? So no, then you know actually the key value is the experience. And so a strategy kind of just puts those, I suppose, guidelines in place, so that when you're creating new marketing materials, new copy, even uploading anything on social media, you know that it should align with those values, and then it will fit with the brand and it will portray the right image. So, you know, for example, with the affordable thing, if you had a really high-end luxury brand, let's say, and it looked like, oh, really expensive, but then you use the word affordable, it's totally not on the same page.
Yeah.
So you've got to make sure that everything aligns, and that's what a strategy does. If you follow it, then you know that it's going to make sure everything's consistent and you are attracting that target audience.
This is the WedPro podcast. We've got some amazing trends to discuss about what's going to be hot and what's not going to be hot on Instagram that are really going to be able to elevate your game for the wedding industry. We know that you spend a load of time doing content,
creating content, showing up on Instagram. We know that mobile phones are like an extension of our couple's arms, aren't they? These types of couples enjoy the research process, and they are spending a lot of time researching businesses, reading more reviews, enjoying content. They love to research. They love to feel empowered by that research and know that they're making informed decisions about the wedding suppliers that they are booking for their weddings. And they are using social media and Instagram to do that.
And I think lots of couples, no matter what era they're in, and for anything that I plan, actually, it's like, okay, let's get Christmas out of the way, and then we can start the planning process. So this is a great time for us to be diving into this for you, and we hope you take loads.
Yeah, I think as well, like every year, like there's updates, things change, algorithms change, but also like trends change as well. Like what are people drawn to on social media? What new things can we do on social media? What content should we be creating? And the fundamentals there will always be the same. Build content, create content that builds know, like, and trust, that sets you up as an expert, that educates, informs, and isn't just sell. Just so that you can be ahead of the game and create more of the content that is going to be seen by your audience and interactive with your audience as well.
So let's talk about the first trend that is not going to be going away anytime soon, and that is Instagram Reels, with over 140 billion daily plays, and I've probably got 2,000 of those. It's clear that couples are engaging with short form videos, and this is going to set to be huge in 2024, and it really is a golden opportunity for your wedding business.
Yeah, for sure. Like Instagram Reels are massive. It's really funny, actually. If we think about marketing as a whole, Reels are like relatively new in like the marketing game. Like it's only really been the last 2 to 3 years, and then we've all been playing around with what works, what doesn't work. But if you're in the wedding industry, like creating Reels is just a really great way for you to be able to go viral in your business, for you to get eyes on your content, and also for you to be able to be building up all that know, like, and trust factor as well. So if you're in the wedding industry and you're thinking about ideas as to how you can incorporate Reels into your strategy, some things like behind the scenes moments, sneak peeks of what you're doing, sneak peeks of venue visits, quick tips, before and after, transformations, even things like B-roll content where you may film a part of your day, film you making a coffee and giving a tip. However, quite often I am not Instagram like ready, but do you know what? This is also something that we need to get over, and something actually it doesn't matter. People crave authenticity, and actually I just need to get over it and just think, you know what, like, be brave. I don't need to be glammed making a coffee every day, because that isn't my life. Dropped the kids off from school, I've come in, I don't even drink coffee, so there you go. That wouldn't be the one I would be making. I'd be making a cup of tea, and you'd all be going, oh, she takes a tea black. She doesn't even put milk in it. And then I'd be sitting at my desk. Like, I wouldn't be necessarily full makeup on, glam, how I would if I was on a client call or I was going out to a meeting. But day to day in the business, when I'm doing admin or work admin, I'm in my comfies, like
not all fleeky. That actually makes, I would say, that makes better content. It's something that's a little bit different than maybe what others are doing. And I was just thinking how you were saying about Reels being relatively new. Remember the days of like we all thought we had to do the dancing Reels or the pointing reel.
I know, if you actually go back, because it was me that was doing that, wasn't it? Like,
you know what? You may have needed to do that at that time. That was what the trend was.
And I felt I probably had some fun doing it. Right now, I'm looking back and thinking, what the hell?
What the? But it is that imperfect action is better than no action. And I think that's something that we all can take away from. I think we've just learned ourselves something there as well about we need to get over ourselves.
I think just get out of our head a little bit. Like that B-roll content is actually like everywhere. And if you're listening to this thinking, I don't know what B-roll content is, it's just that kind of you filming yourself, not looking at the camera, getting on with something in your day. Whether that be, you know, it would have been something like putting together Sensationary or something like that. But now actually it's just
an email.
Yeah, replying to an email, walking in the park, or I've even seen B-roll content of people putting their makeup on in the morning. And it's just about getting into that habit of filming parts of your day, of your content. Maybe we just need to do a content day and be like, right, let's just
That
film.
is what we need to do, yeah.
Yeah, and that's a really good tip for you as well. Like, if you can find half a day where you think, right, I'm going to film some B-roll content, you can repurpose that into lots of different reels where you're giving tips, you're giving advice, you may be just sharing a little bit of expertise or sharing your take on a trend, telling people about a blog post, anything really you can attach to that. And also you can make B-roll content at weddings too. So just something for you to be thinking about, like, are you incorporating reels into your wedding business strategy? We're going to be exploring the hottest wedding trends for 2024 and discussing actionable strategies to ensure your wedding related business is prepared to thrive.
That's right. Whether you are a planner, a photographer, a wedding dress shop owner, or any other wedding business, and this goes for you lovely lot listening as well, make sure that you are not only looking after your businesses, you are looking after yourselves as well, because it is so important.
It is. Right, trend reports are starting to come out. All of the kind of Google Analytics searches are starting to come out. Like, what are people Googling? What are the trends? We've been speaking to wedding business owners, but also reading a few of the trend reports that have come out already. And actually, we had a good discussion about this inside of our coaching circle. And we were like, what are you seeing coming forward in 2024? What are your couples asking for? And we wanted to give you kind of not only the trends for next year, but also the insights. What can you be doing now in order for you to stay ahead in your business for next year as well, and stay relevant?
Yeah, and it's really actually a really clever thing to even think about. It's not only, yes, I get to read the reports about what's going on kind of next year, is how can you use this information in your business?
For sure. So the first thing that we want to talk to you about is our first trend, and it's the significant rise in celebrant-led weddings. And there's been a whopping 49% increase in searches for celebrant-led weddings. And what's driving this trend? Well, it's all about creating that kind of personalized, non-traditional ceremony. Couples are yearning for unique, meaningful experiences.
So here's what you can do to implement this and take this knowledge forward into your business. You can consider offering services that are tailored to those kinds of weddings. You can also work with celebrants to create those personalized packages and showcase your ability to add that emotional depth and symbolism to the work that you do in the wedding industry.
Yeah, I think what is really driving this forward is that people aren't really looking for that kind of cookie cutter wedding anymore. It's more about personalized experiences, making the ceremony even more about them, maybe steering away from tradition altogether. And it's all about really couples showcasing their personalities or showcasing the things that are important to them, whether that's their culture, heritage, maybe parts of their family's heritage.
Yeah.
And in order for you to be able to stay ahead of the curve here, it's about how you can offer couples unique services. So maybe the option to put together packages that they want to be able to put together, maybe the option that you can work with the suppliers to kind of fill the gaps in the services or products that you offer, but also thinking about the emotional meaning behind maybe your service or what you do. Why is it that a client should book a videographer? Can you tailor that to kind of the emotion that the couple are going to really receive there?
So the next trend that we are seeing a rise in coming into 2024 are weekend and 2-day weddings, or even multi-day weddings. Couples are extending their celebration to go over not just 1 day, sometimes 2 days, or even 3 days. And I was actually speaking to a wedding planner who she has literally extended her own wedding to 3 days. And this offers so much more opportunity for your services. You can create comprehensive packages and collaborate with venues that can accommodate those multi-day events, and emphasize the benefits of weekend weddings in all of your marketing materials, all of your social posts. Loads of opportunities here to get more work coming your way.
Yeah, and I think that is that. If you can extend that service and extend that kind of revenue of that couple by having all-inclusive packages that go over a multitude of multi-day events. Perhaps maybe you could help to organise the rehearsal dinner, welcome party, after the wedding brunches, whatever it kind of is. Maybe you could supply your product for those days as well. Have a think about whether, if you're in catering, you could come up with kind of a brunch package. So not only are they then having the wedding breakfast or the, evening meal with you, but also then you could offer to kind of cater for the brunch the following day, or maybe the wedding rehearsal dinner the evening before. And this is becoming so popular. So exactly what Roxy said, think about getting this into your marketing right now. Think about, blogging about the benefits of having weddings over a couple of days, or the benefits of having kind of a weekend wedding experience. Maybe showcasing previous multi-day events that you've done inside your business and, that you've been a part of, but then also providing them with that education and providing them with that gap in their knowledge as to, okay, what does that look like? Planting that seed that they might want to do that, and that they could get all of those solutions from you.
Today we are joined by the amazing Anna from His Day. Anna is a true wedding entrepreneur with over a decade experience in the wedding industry as an event planner, and she's also got a few other businesses as well. She's one half of the driving force behind His Day, and we're really thrilled that she's with us. She's a huge passionate advocate for inclusivity and ensuring every groom feels celebrated and valued. So, hi Anna, thank you for joining us today. Can you start by just introducing yourself and telling us a little bit of the background behind His Day and how it came about?
Absolutely. So, as you mentioned, 10 years experience in the weddings and events industry kind of led me to the point where when my husband and I got engaged and we were planning our wedding, as couples are doing, and why people listen to your podcast and suppliers are here, we were trying to find a wedding fair or something where David would feel included.
Okay.
David very much wanted to be 50% involved in the wedding planning. I have things that I was more interested in. He certainly had things that he was more interested in. And we kind of flexed the gender boundary. He was more interested in flowers because he's a big gardener. And so when we were at fairs, we were realising that people weren't talking to him. Or we had free drink for the bride, free goodie bag for the bride with mascara in and things that there's no way he could even share those bits in that bag. And so His Day was born out of a need in the industry, not only in the UK, but actually globally, that the industry as it currently stands is very much geared towards women.
Yeah.
And so that's really why it came about.
So when, you first realised this, did David come to you and say I'm not feeling involved, or I want to be involved more, or was it more just sort of a natural feeling that you got from him?
That is a contentious subject because we argue over whose idea it was. We were literally sat at a fair and I'd just got my free Prosecco and we were with a bridesmaid.
Where's my beer?
Literally. And so my bridesmaid said, with all due respect, David, why are you here? Because nobody, even when I was saying, I don't want anything to do with this part of the wedding, let David decide, they would still ask me if I was okay with it. And it's like, I don't know how much more I can tell you that I'm okay for him to have this conversation. He doesn't need my permission to talk to you. And so it was a collective sat there together. Shall we Google it?
Yeah.
Let's Google it.
Because he's going to be listening to this back, right? So
yes. And if I did take credit, he'd be very annoyed at me.
What was the initial reaction when you started to tell people that this is what you wanted to do, that you wanted to kind of have a company that was more kind of groom focused? What was the initial reaction inside the wedding industry and then with outside of the wedding industry as well, like your friends, family, and people that you know?
Friends, family, people we know was, oh great, they're taking something else on. You've already got a bar, you've already got all these things. Why are you doing more? Which really goes to show this is our passion rather than, just another business. Within the wedding industry, wholeheartedly has been incredible. Genuinely, every supplier that finds us, they're like, yes, where has this existed? Particularly for male suppliers as well, because often women, as we do, we buy from other women because we feel a lot more comfortable talking directly to women. And so often male suppliers find it a little bit harder to break through.
And I think it's really important to just put out there that actually inside the industry as a whole, it's 82% women, isn't it? So,
exactly.
And this is something that we see inside of our community a lot. And even though we have amazing male clients, don't we? Like really great wedding suppliers, actually it's a women predominantly industry. And maybe it's something that we're not even realising we're doing, is in gravitating towards other women.
I think that's what it is, yeah. Because I suppose, and I don't know, you can tell me when you've spoken to other suppliers about it and they've gone, oh, I didn't even know that we weren't doing that until you've made it more apparent. Like, oh, yeah, they are getting forgot about, but we not done it on purpose probably. It's just we've gravitated towards that more female base.
And a lot of suppliers have said to us, actually, this is something I've thought about, but I don't know how to. Because then on the flip side, you've also got same-sex grooms.
Sure.
And in that instance, there is no bride. So if your content, if your branding, if everything is geared towards the bride, what about couples where there is no bride? And so a lot of suppliers come to us even for that reason as well. When we started, we weren't part of the LGBTQ community, but definitely as a really happy byproduct, we give a voice also to them who, especially the grooms within the LGBTQ community, who don't necessarily want to be stereotyped in the LGBTQ community. They want to be treated as men that are getting married. And so that's what we offer. We offer something that isn't affiliated with anything. We're just his day.
I think this is really important, and as you've touched on there, inclusivity is really at the core of his day and what you're doing. But how do inclusive practices enhance the wedding experience for everybody involved, not just the suppliers but also the people getting married? How is it just beneficial for everybody to get on board with this idea?
In some respects, I think that is a much larger question than I could ever answer, purely on the basis of why is inclusivity important in life. I think there's a number of, it's the same whether we're talking about the wedding industry or we're talking about globally, why is inclusivity important? I think naturally, we've touched on it. We're white women. We haven't experienced marginalisation. In our country, there are other countries in the world where white people are marginalised because that isn't like the predominant race within that country. So I think when we're talking about it, what we're trying to say is equity. And there's a huge difference between equality and equity. Equality being everyone's the same. And unfortunately, that's just not practical. Equity is where everybody is treated as equally as possibly can. They have the same opportunity, the same voice. And so I think that's incredibly important, whether we are talking about the wedding industry or not. And the benefits are astounding. Not only are we going to see more people from diverse cultures and backgrounds wanting to celebrate their marriages in a, quote unquote traditional way, but we're also then going to see an uptake in the wedding industry as a whole and what we're bringing to suppliers. So it seems airy-fairy, but it's the right thing to do.
Absolutely. And I think as we're kind of gearing now, we're seeing this in the wedding industry more and more, especially after COVID, like lots more people bringing all of the parts of themselves to a wedding. So whether they've got cultural traditions, and especially with more celebrant-led weddings now that we're seeing, you're seeing all of these lovely, like almost fusion weddings as well. So it's not just about it being men or LGBTQ plus or whatever it is. It could be a cultural thing. And I love that. And we're seeing that even more and more, quote unquote, traditional. What is traditional? Like we're just really breaking the boundaries.
Things are a lot more like personalised, creative. It's not about who you are. It's kind of more about now what you are and what you represent. Yeah. I really love that.
Yeah. I do. You only have to go on TikTok for 5 minutes to see 5 untraditional things I did at my wedding. Yeah. And it's about, I think what we're starting to see, and you guys would know this better than me, but we're starting to see a shift in the industry that it's no longer about ticking a box. It's about celebrating the couple.
Yeah.
And if we're celebrating the couple, we're celebrating the individuality of the couple. And that's across gender, race, everything. And I love that.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the WedPro podcast. Full transcripts of this episode, plus every other episode we have done, are available at www.theweddingbusinesshub.com/blogs. Thanks so much for listening. If you do have any questions about this episode or anything else at all, you can email us at info@theweddingbusinesshub.com. And if you are loving our episodes, which I know you are, make sure you hit the subscribe or follow button so you can stay updated with any new episodes that land. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode.